Welcome. This is Marcy. I'm Marcy Bond, and this is the Publishing Lounge. Today, my guest is Taria Reed. She's a photographer and a cover artist, and she can tell you a little bit more about herself because she knows a lot more about her than I do.
Wow, pop quiz. You didn't say there was going to be a test. I'm Taria. I've been a photographer since 2005, and I pretty much tripped into that. I was always into photography. My grandfather taught me, and one day I went and someone said, "Hey, can you shoot my wedding?" Okay, no problem. So I did that, and it pretty much snowballed into having a portrait business. Around 2011, I got a little antsy because I wanted, I'm a creative person and I wanted to do more. So I found a website called DeviantArt, and I loved the artwork that was there. So I devoured every tutorial I could find on any part of the internet, and I taught myself how to do photo manipulation. And I would do my artwork, and then I would post it on Facebook, and I would tag it to Twitter. And someone contacted me. She was like, "Well, do you do book covers?" And I was like, I've never done it, but okay, we can try it. And she told me what she wanted, and I did exactly what she wanted. And like most, not most authors, but some authors who are just beginning, they don't quite understand what it is they want. So and me being a new artist at the time, I couldn't guide her into what would look good and what wouldn't look good and what we should avoid. So I did what she wanted, and it didn't translate well into cover art. And we kept working at it, and finally ended up with something she loved. And even the process taught me so much. And after that, I would streamline. So I would keep with my artwork. And then after a while, I was like, okay, you know what? I've done a couple of covers for independent authors, and I'm pretty decent. I can kind of compete with what I see in the bookstores. Let me query a couple of publishers and see how that is. I sent one to you. I sent one to a couple of other publishers, and you were actually the first publisher to hire me. And I'm happy to say I'm still with you. And so it pretty much snowballed. So all of my creative endeavors was pretty much, I tripped into it. You gave me a cover to do. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the title of the cover. Oh, Taker of Life.
Oh, yes.
Taker of Life, and what Faith wanted. Sorry, it's my son FaceTiming me. But what Faith wanted, she wanted something that was so specific. There was no stock images for that, and I didn't know. At that time. I didn't know how to Frankenstein an image together to get what she wanted. So I asked you. I was like, "Is it okay if I shoot this?" You were like, "You're a photographer? Sure, go ahead." And I drew the most ridiculous stick figure, and you can actually see it on my stock site. I put it up there, and it's the most ridiculous stick figure drawing, and that's what I showed my models. This is what I want you to do, look like, and they were looking at me like, okay. And after they got there, we got them in costume, we got them in makeup, and we shot the image, and it came out beautiful, and I loved it. And ever since that, if I can shoot the image, I will. Just because it kind of gives you that exclusive image that no one is going to have, and it also gives me the creative license to give you the vision that I have in my head after I read the thing. So pretty much everything, all of my creative endeavors have totally been stumbled upon.
Well, it also seems like you've kind of roped your mom into helping you.
Yes.
because when I see some of your posts about some of the clothes that you use, and your mom, does she make some of those? Or?
Yes, yeah. My mom has sewn. She's an awesome seamstress. She's been sewing since before I was born. She's tried to teach me, and I just can't get it. But she's always made clothes for me and my sister. She's made Easter dresses. She's made graduation dresses. She made prom dresses, and she made my bridesmaids dresses for my wedding. And we were talking one day, and I told her, I was like, you know what, I want to start shooting stock images, and I need historical stuff, and we're looking on eBay, and she's like, I can do that. And I would look at him like, really? And he actually made the dress for Taker of Life, the simple one.
Wow.
And then, so we waited till like Halloween, and we went and we bought a whole, bunch of period costumes. And then there's a couple of fabric stores by my house, and every time they have a sale, me and my mom are in there. We're grabbing, even if we don't have a pattern for it, grabbing different fabrics to use for these. And when I schedule a shoot, I'll give her about 3 months, and I'll say, okay, this is the dress I want. These are the fabrics I want. How long will it take you to make it? Sometimes depending, she works full time, so she does this in her free time. So sometimes she'll say, it'll take me 2 weeks. Sometimes she'll say it'll take me 2 months. Sometimes she'll say it'll take me 3 months, depending on how complex the dress is or the outfit is. But she pulls it off, and the outfits are fabulously wonderful. And when I tell people my mom made this dress, they're like, get out of town. My mom made this dress.
That's fabulous. That's really, well, it's obvious that she has passed down talent to you, just in a different venue. So that's really, really cool and interesting. And I know that also one of the things that you like to do, at least with your photography, and what you've kind of are becoming known for, are your interracial covers and romance, and it's really, I would say it's really fabulous, because that is very hard to find. Mm-hmm. and it's actually kind of more of a reality now, and not so much of a when you go out in the real world, this is the couples you're seeing. There's a blurring of the lines. It's really nice to see it not being as rigid as it used to be.
And like I said, like most of my creative endeavors, I kind of stumbled into it. I was asked to do an interracial cover. An author, she saw my artwork, she saw my covers, and she was like, I love your work. I really want you to do my cover. And she sent me her cover form, and I went through it, and it was for an interracial couple. So I'm like, all right, cool. It's no different. As naive as I was at the time, I didn't realize that interracial stock was so difficult to find. Well, good interracial stock was so difficult to find. So I'm on these stock sites, and I'm pulling my hair out because I can't find anything. There's nothing that was classy enough. There's nothing that was sensual enough. It was one extreme or the other. There was nothing in between that kept it, sexy. And so I approached her. I was like, okay, can you be my guinea pig? And she said, a guinea pig? I said, bear with me. I said, this is before I started my stock site. So I said, I want to shoot the image for this. So I need you to kind of, go with my vision here. So I explained everything to her. These are the models that I want to use. This is the pose that I want. This is the clothes that I want them to wear. This is the feel I'm going for your cover. And she was in love. She was like, okay, go. Whatever you want to do, I trust you. So she did that, and I had the couple come in, and we did a whole bunch of pictures, and I picked the best one. I did her cover, and she was in love. So from that shoot, we did a couple of different poses, different outfits. So I took an image from that shoot, and I did what I call artwork. No cover intended. It's just whatever's in my heart. I put it out there in artwork. So I created a couple of those, and people were just like, oh my God, these are fabulous. Where'd you get that picture from? I took it. And that's kind of one of the snowballs for my website. I'm one of the largest interracial private stock sites because the images just weren't there. I'm running into covers where people take Caucasian models and color them in dark. And it is. And again, not everybody will see it this way, but I find it to be the most offensive thing ever. And I'm just like, I don't understand how you can do this when the images are there. I'm putting the images there for you guys, and not everybody knows that I have a site, and I have a plethora of interracial couples, but I'm just like, we have to get the word out because, I hear all the time, oh, I wish I saw this. I wish I saw that. I wish there were more of this. And I'm like, I have that.
Well, what I like too is that you also do the historical, and it's really, really hard to find good historical pictures and poses, that aren't, I don't know, that don't look like RPG.
Yes.
Well, there's nothing wrong with RPG, but that's not what I want on my cover. I want something that looks professional.
Yeah, most people want, there are, you can get the RPG, the poser people, as I call them. You can get those and you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. But the downside is it doesn't quite look polished. It doesn't look like something that you would walk into Barnes and Noble and see and say, "Oh, I want to buy that."
Right.
When it comes to the historicals, no matter what genre, no matter what ethnicity I'm shooting for, I try to get it as close as possible. And I'll be the first one to say I will get a guy's costume wrong. Girls, I got that. A guy's costume, there's not a lot on what men wore at that time. So I do my best to try and Google it, men in 1800s, men in 1840, to see what they were wearing, and we get as close as we can. But it's, I've seen stock images that were supposed to be historical, and it was pretty much a big skirt and a corset.
Right.
That's not quite historical. Or it was just, a sleeveless prom dress or a strapless prom dress. I'm like, not quite historical. So again, I try my best. We have quite a few historical dresses in there. When sometime in March, we're going to be shooting more historicals because I'm getting requests. Do you have, Western historicals? I have a couple, but not quite a few. But you know what? I can work on that. So in March, we're doing nothing but historical. We're doing medieval. We're doing westerns. And if anybody knows me and talked to me and seen any of the videos that I do, because we shoot behind the scenes videos in the studio, I love costume shopping. I hate shopping for me, but I love costume shopping.
Well,
we have chainmail in the studio, and I'm like, I want to use chainmail and swords. Come on, somebody write this. If I get a really cool costume piece, I'll post a picture of it. Somebody write this.
And sometimes I'm sure that your pictures inspire people, and I desperately am having this urge because I have these 2 costume books that are accurate. They're actually for what the theaters use.
Okay.
And I'm desperately wanting to go grab them, but I don't feel like I can walk away from this because they are for they show you how to draft patterns. Mm-hmm. And I bet your mom could look at them and just automatically go, "Oh, well, that's easy."
Oh yeah, she's freestyled many things for me. Mom, I need a little Red Riding Hood cape. Okay. Come in the next week with a little Red Riding Hood cape, and I'm like, "Did you use a pattern?" No. Okay. No.
Well, that's what I mean, because they actually tell you what they would have worn and what they did and how they're made. And I have one for Elizabethan costumes. I have one for, I want to see 17th century.
Okay.
And there's also 18th century. And then, you can buy, there's a specific, what is the name of, I think it's Dover Publications that publishes these books on accurate costumes and how to make these and what they were and what the term, not that you care about the terms and everything, but and the reason I have this is at one time, you should attend some Ren fairs. They have some great costumes there. But one of the reasons that I had these was because I was doing historical shows in schools. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to have accurate costumes. I was portraying historical women and I needed to have accurate costumes so that I felt like that's what I needed to have. And so I hired a seamstress to actually make accurate costumes for me. I'm going to let this person in. I've never done this. We'll see. I don't know who this is. All right, come back and we'll see. Hello, did you have a question? Did you have a question for Taria about costumes, or not costumes, but photography or cover art?
Yes, of course. It's about the the cover of a magazine. So
Okay.
we need to choose a photo. So I'm trying to send you the line of my photos, and after that we can choose which one will be more interesting, or for the audience and for the people. Okay, if you could help me with that.
You completely broke up, so we have no idea what you were asking.
You're asking help on how to pick out a photo?
Exactly.
Depending on what it is, you want your photo to be able to convey what your subject is. So, for example, I do cover art. You mentioned magazines. I do cover art for books. So if
It's about yes, okay. It's about an application. So I'm trying to build an application, and
okay.
Oh, I don't want to lock it in case Skyla comes in, but that really wasn't applicable to what we were doing.
No.
I don't usually let people in, but
First time for everything.
First time for everything. That was like, oh no. But no, so there's some really good books. I'm only saying that so that when she goes to look at like the medieval, you have the accurate, and she has something she can look at. And some of them are dry as dust. And but some of them are very, they're very, very good. Matter of fact, I drafted a pattern. I am not a seamstress remotely. So I don't know how much muslin I went through trying to sew that thing together. But I drafted a pattern for, it was pre-medieval. So I want to say for the Dark Ages. I want to add not even the Dark Ages was like 900 AD. And I found a book that showed you how to do that based on what they saw. Based on what the examples that they had and some of the drawings that they had seen, and then the text that they had that talked about the clothes.
I will say this. My mom, I wanted a shirt. You know how in the old 80s bodice rippers, Fabio had like the shirt that's just dripping off of him?
Yes.
No buttons. It was open in the front. And I told my mom, that's what I want. And she was like, okay, go ahead and make it. You want me to make it? Yeah. So I went over there on a Sunday, and I spent the entire day sewing this sucker. And I got to the point where I got like 95% of it done. She had to put cuffs on the sleeves or something like that. So she did that for me because I had to get home. And she brought the shirt, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I have a newfound appreciation for what it is that you do, because that shirt kicked my butt, and she's over here making these grand dresses. So I'm like, yeah, I will never take for granted anything that she makes for me ever.
Right. Ever. Well, I spent days and many hours. The air around me was blue. Or as blue as a mom's air can be with her child next to her.
Oh,
in my mind.
Mine can get pretty blue.
I had a blue fog in my mind for days of how horrible this was. So I totally get it. I am not. Hey, do you think? No, you probably can't find the books that I'm looking for, the period books. Never mind. Go away. She looked at me like deer in the headlights. No, I can't find anything. Don't ask. So, wow, God, that's hilarious. So we were talking about your room at the Menger, because that's where you're at right now for the Wild Wicked Weekend, and that. I was curious, is most of what you do, are you primarily a photographer, and then or is it kind of both?
It totally depends on the time of year it is. I go through ups and downs and valleys and peaks with most of what I do. I freelance for preschool, so I shoot. It sounds horrible when I say I'm going to go shoot preschools, but
with your camera.
Yes. I photograph for preschools. So in the spring, during the day, that's what I'm doing. So I am like up to my ears in, infants, toddlers, 4 and 5-year-olds. And in the summer, it goes back to being heavy for cover design. And then I'm also doing conferences in the summer. And in the fall, it's again heavy with cover design. And in the fall, I'm also heavy with preschools again. The winter, heavy with cover design. Right about now, I'll say February and March is when I'm in a pretty good lull for both. So I usually try to shoot a lot in that time period. So not only am I shooting, portraits in my studio and preschoolers, I'm doing cover design, and I also have to make time to schedule photo shoots and custom shoots. So it's always, it's like juggling. There's always a ball moving somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so this would be a good time once you're home again for me to slam you with cover art.
That's what I have to do for you. I had to put it aside because I had to prep for coming here. And
okay.
I'm horrible. I totally forgot I was coming here. And I was like, you know what? And I kept thinking, okay, you know what? It's the end of February. I'm good. It's the end of February. I'm good. It's the end of February. I'm good. And then like the 15th came. I'm like, crap, the end of February is next week. So,
I know the feeling. Yeah, I do know that. I do know that feeling when I have the deadlines and it's going to, something's going to release. And I'm like, I have 2 weeks. And suddenly like, I have a week. I mean, everything else is prepared, but then it's, it's things that have to be done by a specific time. Yes, deadlines are closer than they appear.
Yes.
Kind of like they're in your rearview mirror and suddenly they're on top of you, right?
And that's what it is. Like, oh, that's at the end of the month. It's fine. I'm good. She sent it to me now. I have 3 weeks to get this done. I'm okay. And the next thing you know, it's like, I have 2 days. Oh my goodness. And then I'm up at like 4:00 in the morning getting it done just to make sure you have a proof to look at in the morning.
Well, and I know that feeling too. I woke up at I end up falling asleep early, but then I'll wake up at like 5 a.m. I have all these things to do and I can't sleep. And then my husband's, where are you going? I have work to do. You always have work to do.
Yep, my husband caught me at
my life.
Yeah, my husband this week, because again, I knew I was going to be, and I wasn't sure what the internet situation would be here. And I have, I'm photographing most of the event here, and I was up till like 3:30 and 3:00 in the morning, and he's coming downstairs. He's like, "What are you still doing up?" I got work to do. I'm up with my kids, getting them off to school. So, from there, I'm jumping back in so I can get everything done, or get mostly everything done before I came here. So that way, okay, everybody knows I'm going to be out of pocket this weekend, so have no emergencies.
Well, you know what happens, right? When you're out of pocket, there's bound to be an emergency.
I already got 2 emails waiting for me.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it was the first time I went to a conference. Was it the first time? But no, it wasn't the first time. It was like the second time I went to this conference. It was in Colonial Williamsburg. And I had wanted to take, our third time, I don't remember. Anyway, I had wanted to take my daughter with me because I thought, oh, this would be a fabulous opportunity for her. We live in Southern California, and Colonial Williamsburg, I'm sure she would love it. I had the year before I'd taken her to New Orleans and she still talks about that. And so I wanted to take her, but Charlie, my husband, wasn't so enthused about going to Colonial Williamsburg in the middle of winter, or not really winter, but March. But it still it would have been really, really cool. And so I get there, and I do believe there was some big earthquake someplace, and then they reported, and this is like 7:00 my time there, so it was like 4 a.m. here, and they said that there was a tsunami headed for Southern California. or there could be. And, so I'm freaking out. I have to admit, I'm totally freaking out. And so I call my family. I called Charlie. I say, you guys got to get up to as far away from the beach because we're not really that far. And it's pretty flat when you come inland. So, we're maybe 5 miles in from the beach. So we're not right on the beach, but it's pretty flat. So if there were some big tsunami, I don't know, when you're panicking, it doesn't matter. And I remember calling him and he's like, it's not a big deal. Like, just be prepared for me. Please just be prepared for me. I mean, that sounds silly. And of course, nothing happened. Everything's okay. But it was, it seems like whenever we go out of town, someone calls from Charlie's work and a server has shut down or something, or there's something wrong with the mail. It's like, why? Why?
I was nervous. I wasn't going to be able to make it. I was going to miss my flight because last night it was storming so bad. And I got the weather alert message on my phone saying that there was a tornadoes warning. I was like, tornadoes in New Jersey? Are you kidding me? Mother Nature better get it together.
Tornadoes. You know what? Luckily, we're not having any tornadoes in California. So
I thought the same thing about New Jersey. Don't get too
well, we're just having the drought. That's all. So I don't know which is, well, I guess tornadoes are worse, but I don't know because drought is long term. So, but are you going to, hopefully, you know what? You should take your camera with you and see if you can catch some ghost pictures.
They actually dared me to do that. Wait till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Just walk around the hallways with your camera. Just take pictures. I'm like, okay, and who's going to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning to take pictures of you guys? I definitely will do a walkabout and just me and my camera and just see where it takes us and what still we get. I did the same thing when we went to New Orleans about 2 years ago, and I got little orbs. I'm not convinced orbs are anything, but whatever. Yeah. So I got orbs. It was interesting. A friend of mine who went with me, she insisted she got a ghost, which it wasn't a ghost. It was a shadow of a chandelier. But
well, there's a picture that Virginia Nelson has, and she posted it, and it's like down in this, there's a mirror, and down in the corner of the mirror is this face. It's like pretty creepy. You're like, bring it on, bring the revenge. I don't think you want the revenge.
Okay, so I'm putting a blanket over my mirror, my suitcase by the door, and the bathroom is getting locked. Got it.
Well, see, when I was in Colonial Williamsburg, staying in the hotel there, I walked into my room. The first day I walked into my room, I smelled like perfume, somebody's perfume. Then I went out and I came back later, and it kept getting stronger. The scent was stronger. And, no one had been in my room but me. I do not wear perfume. Hopefully I'm not stinky, but I don't wear perfume because it bothers me. So it makes me nauseous. And so I walked in, and each day it got progressively stronger that I was there. And so I'd walk through just a certain part of it. I would smell this perfume as I walked through it. I'm like, oh, that's just great. This hotel is not supposed to be haunted, but somehow something has found me, and here I am in a room.
It needed a vacation too. It traveled with you.
No, I don't need that to happen. Oh gosh!
I will say, downstairs in the Mango, they have, I don't know if they're like antique stores, but there's these windows and they have antique chairs. A couple of them have like old time costume, like what the soldiers wore back then. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, what are the charges if I break the window and pack it in my suitcase and take it back to New Jersey with me? The stuff is actually beautiful. And I'm like, okay, I am not going in this store because I'll wind up maxing out a credit card. And my husband would not appreciate that.
No, he probably wouldn't. So you went to make some money and you got in debt.
Yes. I
Not a
walked
good
up.
thing.
They have. I mean, some of the stuff is actually just stunning. Like one of the things I love looking at costumes, and my first thing is, okay, once I see a costume, I know you wouldn't. My husband said no, you wouldn't. One of the things I'll look at costumes. Madame Tussauds is awesome. Like I'll just go there and I'll look at their costumes. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I can put this model in that, and then we can do this, and then we can do this pose. And I automatically think of things in poses. And we went to a couple of years ago, my brother and I, we used to go to the Zombie Walk in New Jersey. And like authors like Joe would say, do you shoot horror? I can. And I would walk and we'd walk around and we'd take pictures and I would look at people. And in my mind, I'm putting that person in a book cover. So yes. So in my mind, I'm putting people in book covers. So I would sit there and just stare at people. And he would just like, stop. You're designing that person into a cover. Stop.
Well, I don't think it's any different than an author walking around and just paying attention to what people are saying, because you get some of the best ideas. You really, and the stuff that people say in real life is far more bizarre than anything you see in a book.
And that's true. Like one of the things I tell, like when I do my art pieces, and I'm not an author by any stretch of the imagination, not going to happen. Couldn't do it. But when I do my art pieces, I see the story in my head. So the last one I did, I titled it "Taboo" with the interracial historical couple, and I said, you know what? I would love to listen to this story. I say listen because I do audiobooks. It's just my thing. But I would love to listen to the story, and I'll go through these moods where whatever I'm listening to will influence what I create. So if I'm doing a lot of historicals, you know what? I'll do a Highlander art piece and just say, you know what? I see this couple doing this. And it's kind of like little plot bunnies I throw out there for you authors. Something more often than not, I'll get a message saying, you know what, your art piece inspired this, this work I'm working on, or it inspired an idea that I have. I wrote down. I can't write it right now, but I'm going to write it in the future because that idea was just awesome. And I have to run with it. So it's kind of like a symbiotic thing where, you know what, you guys have the stories and I just have the vision, and I'll kind of give you what I see as artwork and let you guys just take it and run.
Yeah, it's interesting because I homeschool my daughter, so we've been doing a lot of reading on the colonial time period right now. And what's fascinating about it is this particular book that we're reading about is not really, or we're reading, it's not about the wars or anything like that. It's all about their life. So it talks about their clothes. It talks about what they would have eaten. It talks about how they built their houses. It talks about even the candle and the light and how things would have really been. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because, when we were in school, they showed that Puritans were always in black and white. And that's completely inaccurate. They would have worn browns and greens and maybe blues if they could get a hold of the indigo dye. And that, we all thought it was black and white, and it shows them with buckles. They didn't have buckles at that time. Not when for the Pilgrims first came over. They didn't even have buckles. Yeah, The Simpsons. No, it was way before. That was something that was way before that. That was back in the 70s when I was going to school. That's the kind of stuff they were showing. I don't know why. But so it's really interesting. And most of the clothes, especially in the North, they would have made it from flax. So it would have been linen. Because if at least in the first so many years, they didn't have enough sheep for wool, and they didn't have the money or the credit to get gets supplies sent to them from England. So yeah. So you have, it's kind of fascinating when you start studying the history. Maybe the wealthy people had it, but oh, you guys are informative. I like you people. So the things I've learned since homeschooling my daughter, I'm much better educated than I ever was.
The funny thing is, I learn a lot from authors. They'll send me an art form and they'll say, okay, well, we need this and we need this and we need this. And I'm like, okay. And sometimes if they don't have the information, I can't get a hold of them right away. I'm like, all right, we'll just fudge that little thing. Oh, no. It can't be denim. It has to be leather because that's what they wore back then. They didn't have them. They didn't have the mills. And I'm like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now I got to turn these jeans and make them like leather pants.
Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, the cowboys didn't wear jeans because that's what farmers wore. Mm-hmm. They wore the canvas. And so it's and the gunslingers wore flower print shirts. They did. They make it seem like they wore plaid and then they wore solid color, but flowers.
Explain that one.
Well, let's just say who's going to say. Well, first off, the men who wore the flowers were the gunslingers. Mm-hmm. So you automatically said that you were a gunslinger by wearing a flower print shirt because you could get away with it.
Now, you're telling me flower print shirt. In my head, I'm thinking Hawaiian shirt.
No. It wasn't. You'd have to look at the period, the flower period of the time, mm-hmm. But not Hawaiian print at all. They probably wouldn't have known what a hibiscus was. So, right? We're talking to. I think more like I want to say calico, the calico shirts.
Okay.
And because that was more what they had, but the guys would wear that, and that was one of the ways that they announced that they were gunslingers, and so who's going to tease you? And then we have to remember that the fashion was different at that time period, right? Mm-hmm. So what they thought was great to wear, we wouldn't be caught dead in, given a choice. So that's a lot waiting to be used as well. Yes, it is. So, I mean, given a choice, I wouldn't want to wear 7 petticoats, right? Because
not in July.
No.
In New Jersey in December, okay, we can get away with that.
So these were, I'm talking about the 1800s when they had the gunslingers in the Old West. So, but men, the men were the ones who originally wore the high heels. And I'm trying to remember exactly when it switched. It was either the 18th or 17th century when it switched, and women started dressing. When I say dressing more like men, there was this fashion of wearing military jackets, and they started wearing heels. And as soon as the women started wearing heels, then the men stopped wearing heels, and we got stuck with those puppies. I know. I'd much rather have the men wear heels than me because I am not a heel wearer.
I know guys wore heels in, what was that? Where they did like the Rococo period? What was that?
Yeah, that was Baroque.
Yes.
So that would have been, the Baroque period ended in 1750 at the death of Bach. When Johann Sebastian Bach died, that was considered the end of Baroque, at least in music. Okay. So, but they wore the heels, and I can't imagine wearing wigs.
No. This gets hot in the summer. I can't imagine putting something on top of it. No. You'll
have to do the research, Kenneth. That was research I actually did when I was doing Chautauqua performances in the schools regarding historical characters. And when it comes to the heels and the flower print in the 1800s, not the heels in the 1800s, but the flower print. So that I did a lot of research so that I could go in and the reason I don't do that. Yeah. The reason you don't do historic novels, Catherine, I understand. I have lots of plots for historic novels. I've got some information, but I don't feel like I have enough of it to really write one, which is why I stick more with fantasy and contemporary. Yes, the readers do hold your feet to the fire.
I will say that is true. I've done a couple of historicals and I'm like, well, no, you can't have this in this period because my fans will tell me that it's wrong. And I'm like, it's just a glove or it's just a belt. And they're like, no, we can't have it. No, her hair has to be up and it has to be twirled in this particular way. And I'm like, come on, it's a hairstyle. And they're like, no, my fans will write, they will call me on it.
And it's true. They do. But, I mean, people don't realize, or a lot of people who aren't historical novel or historical romance enthusiasts, they don't realize that the reason they read it is because they love history and they like the mix of fiction with it. Mm-hmm. So being accurate, oh yeah, they will call you on it. And that's the problem with these fanatical historical readers. It's I would say when I say that problem is that they're not necessarily looking for you to make a mistake, but the second that you make a mistake, you've lost any credit that you had with them because of that, because they know.
The way I look at it, I mean, again, I enjoy historical. I enjoy most genres of romance, and historicals are, one that I absolutely love. And when I listen to them, it's pretty much just to enjoy the story. You give me a good story. I don't care if you make it, I'll laugh at it if you make a mistake of, the girl walks in to flip the light switch and hey, it's 1800s, there are no light switches. So, I'll laugh at it, but you know what? I'm not going to, burn the author at the stake for making a little mistake like that. But there's some readers who just pretty much, oh no, get your pitchforks and your torches out and go after them.
Well, I downloaded a part of a book because I was looking for a good historical, and this was set in medieval England. Mm-hmm. And the author immediately turned me off just by some of the terminology that she used, and then she said that this girl was going to run away to France to King Pierre's court.
There was a King Pierre?
No. Never. There was not, so it was like, that's not that hard to look up, especially she had said it at a specific date in history in a specific year. And it's like, all you gotta do is now all you have to do is go to the internet and say, who was the King of France during this year? I
look at it like this. An author's job is to lie to me and tell me a story. That's your job. You concoct this thing in your head and you regurgitate it out to me in an entertaining way. Your job is to entertain me. I pay for the books for you to entertain me. It's fiction. It's fiction. Now, I understand that in historicals or in contemporary, there has to be some amount of truth because it's our world based on this story. So I get that. It's not like, it's a paranormal where you can just make up anything all willy-nilly. But I'm like, you know what? It's fiction. So you can't get away with, making up a fictitious king,
I
wouldn't think
I have issues with that.
It would give me a good giggle, but again, it's fiction. It's entertainment.
Well, we're happy to have you give props, Kenya. Please give props. Give us more props. We love them. I understand about the fiction. It's just that for you that might be okay, but for most readers, again, if they're reading and they love the history, and if you're going to you're going to put it on a specific year, it's not that hard to find out who the King of France was during that time. And I actually think that there were so many King Louis. There were like 18 King Louis. You could have just said King Louis, and if you wanted to be more specific, so it was like this person said, oh, I really want to write a historical or set this story in a historical time period, but I don't really care about learning enough about the historical time period. But that's the thing, is that the people who read historicals and who are really avid readers of historicals want you to make sure that you have the history right, because it will bother them. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to be a historical writer, then you need to know what your readers are going to want, and you need to cater to that.
I will say this. I enjoy historicals. I've never made any secret about that. There was a book that I read, and it was a very popular book, but written by a pretty popular author in the historical genre. And I picked up the book because I was in the mood for a certain type of historical. I wanted to read a Scottish Highland historical.
Oh, I love those.
That's what I wanted. I love those. In audiobook, to hear the accent is just awesome. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good narrator though. So I'm listening to this book, and I'm listening, and I'm looking at the cover, and one of these things is not like the other. And I actually went on Facebook and I posted a very generic post. This book had the Scottish sexy Highland dude on the cover with a claymore, kilt, castle in the background. You look at that and you think Scottish Highland book. Here's where the cover art fail comes in. The book had nothing to do with a Scottish Highlander. It was an English duke.
No.
I actually, no. Yes. And the story was good. The story was good. And I was entertained by the story. And I went on Facebook. I said, okay, seriously, if you are going to have a Scottish Highlander on your cover, put a Scottish Highlander in your book.
Yes.
I don't care. And the author immediately knew it was her. I don't say names when I vent on Facebook about authors. I don't say names. And she immediately sent me a message. Is it my book? Yes, it is. And she said, I had nothing to do with that. That was all the cover artist and the publisher. They thought that it would just sell. I'm like, but I bought the book based on the cover, and granted it was a good book, but I was a little disappointed because it didn't match what I wanted. So yeah, huge historical cover art fail. Huge.
I read one too where I bought it based on the blurb, and I really, it was part blurb and part cover, and so I picked it up and I thought, oh, this is going to be really good. And it was nothing like the blurb promised or the cover promised. And it is so, I didn't leave like a bad review or anything like that. But I was so disappointed in what it was. It intimated that it was like a time travel, and it wasn't. And you know how it was like you bought it because you wanted a Scottish historical. I bought it because I was looking for a time travel, and that's what it said it was. And then I get this book that is, I vaguely remember what it was about, but I was really disappointed.
I just thought, Kenya, we actually touched on it earlier. That is a very huge pet peeve of mine. I don't for the replay. You guys can't see the videos. Kenya asked, "What are my thoughts on covers being whitewashed, placing lighter skinned stock models on covers represent darker heroines?" It's a huge pet peeve of mine. It shouldn't happen. There's plenty of stock options out there to get across on a cover. Custom shoots are really not as expensive as some people think they are. Some people think that a custom shoot costs, $1,000 or $1,500. It doesn't. A custom shoot with me costs $400. You get your models, you get your picture, and you get pretty much what you want. You can help me pick the models. You can help me pick what clothes they wear. More often than not, I'll have people, video chat in so they can kind of be their own art director for their shoot. So they can kind of say, you know what? Oh, I like that. Can you just have her dip her head back and lift her leg up and, have him grab her hair? It has happened. Don't laugh.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a cheaper option. I even offer what I call special request images. It's not a custom image and it's not an exclusive image, but if I have 2 models coming in and I try to advertise what models I have coming in, if you say, oh my God, they would be perfect for my book, but I can't afford $400 for a custom image, $100 will get you your image still. It's still a reasonable price. You can still help me choose out outfits. You can still video chat in and be your own art director, so you can kind of pick out what pose you want. So it's still very interactive, and I try to keep my authors very involved. So at the end of the day, when the shoot is done, I know you got the image that you want. So there really is no excuse to whitewash a model or put a model in blackface. Now, to be absolutely honest, there have been times where I've had to, dance that color line a couple of times. I have a model who is Hispanic, and I have passed her off as a Caucasian woman. She pulls it off. Her skin tone isn't that much different to where it's nothing to bring her up 2 shades lighter or bring her 2 shades darker. Anything outside of that looks totally fake to me, and I wouldn't do it. So if I can't alter color and have it look natural, or make it like, okay, they went out and spent the day in the sun and have them look sun-kissed, I won't do it. I'll suggest, okay, maybe we should do something a little different, or maybe we should pick out other models. Now, there have been authors who are like, no, I want that, and that's what I want. And as much as I try to discourage it, I want my clients to be happy. And, if they're happy, then, okay, it just won't end up in my portfolio. But what it is. But as far as, taking a white woman and making her into a black woman, no. Making a black woman into a white woman, no. If the skin tone is to where they can, kind of go either way and play with it a little bit, I have no problem with that, because as an artist, it's my job to work with what I have, my job to give you a convincing image. But to just flat out lie like that, no, I don't do it. I try to avoid it. Actually, I do avoid it, and I highly discourage it. Every time I see it, it just really, it makes me sad for the cover art industry whenever I see that, because that's a huge fail on somebody's part. It's a fail on the artist's part for approving that cover. It's a fail on the cover artist's fault for actually putting that out there as a viable option. And sometimes if it's an actual publisher and it's not self-published, it's a publisher fail for thinking that's going to fly and no one's going to look at that and think that's absolutely crazy.
Well, I think that has really changed in the last probably 5 years, because for a long time, they would whitewash the covers, and I think even a couple of years ago there was a big scandal about one of the New York publishers putting a cover art on it that implied both of the hero and the heroine were white, and it wasn't. It was a mixed racial couple. Mm-hmm. And I remember that and thinking, gosh, why would you even do that? There's a huge audience for that, and it just seems really silly to do that.
It does, and it sends the message. And again, there's another book I'll discuss in a second. It sends the message that brown people can't sell books, and it's a horrible message because everybody reads. Everybody reads. I will. I listen. I still count that as reading, but I will listen to anything. If as long as it's in my genres that I like and I enjoy, I'll listen to anything. Whether it's interracial, whether it's totally a white couple, or it could be a Spanish couple, it could be anything, and I will listen to it if it's a good story. There was a cover that I anonymously, or I vaguely discussed on Facebook, and it really upset me. The story was pretty decent, but it upset me because it was the male character was described as a Marine who can go. He was undercover. He was undercover in Islamic countries, and he was able to blend in as a native. Automatically, that tells me he's brown. He can blend in as a native in an Arab country. On the cover, it was a white cowboy. And the story took place in Wyoming on a ranch, so I understood the cowboy part. But to make him a white cowboy, it just totally disgusted me, because I'm like, why would you do that? This character was written beautifully. He had PTSD, he had issues, he wasn't a perfect alpha, but and I was interested in his story. And I wasn't the only one. The book had like 200 reviews. So people were interested in his story. So to kind of disrespect the character and put him off as a white cowboy, it totally rubbed me the wrong way. And I reviewed the story on the story's merits, but I also made note in my review that this is why I can't in good heart recommend, because somebody along the lines didn't think that this story could sell on its own merits. They had to kind of whitewash this character on the cover. There's another cover, but it was a New York publisher, and the author was a big author in paranormal. And I followed this series. This series has literally 20-something books in it. Great series, very entertaining. And when we got to this one character in the books, this character is a black man. They describe him as a black man. He was he had his issues, and throughout the book, you got to know this character. So you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for his story. And it gets to his story, and the cover model is a white guy, and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I refused to, and as much as I loved this character in the previous books, I refused to read the story.
Oh, well, I don't blame you.
I refused, and it's sad. Like I said, it's very sad that people think that way. They think they have to put a certain image on the cover that it won't sell. It happens in all genres, not just like that. There's an interracial author who whitewashes her covers, and she doesn't promote her books as interracial, and that's her prerogative. She can promote her books however she wants, but her cover images are very nondescript characters. So her characters can be described as a black woman and a white man, but looking at the cover, you wouldn't know. It looks like a white couple with a purple wash over it, or blue wash, or whatever. So you really can't tell. And a lot of times interracial authors do this because they feel that their books won't cross over into mainstream, or they won't get as wide of an audience, to read their book, because they're advertised or they're promoted or marketed as interracial. And some women, and I've read threads on social media where you'll have women say they won't read interracial books because they can't relate to the character. Or I've been in workshops. I'm actually doing a workshop in March for the Liberty State fiction writers book on diversity in books. And I've heard authors say, my books are all whitewashed because I don't know how to write an ethnic character. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why is there a difference between writing an ethnic character or putting an ethnic character on your cover? It's just like writing any other character. The difference is they're brown and you're not. There's no difference. I mean, as long as you're not putting in 1,000,005, racial stereotypes, you write that character like you write any other character. And
Okay. Well, see, because I generally don't write. My last book, the short novella, Mr. Hotness.
great title.
Thank you. That was, I guess you could call it, I don't know if you would or not, because she's her descendant, her ancestry is Basque. Mm-hmm. So it is Hispanic. But it's Basque, but it's not his, you know what I mean? It's kind of, her ancestry is Basque and his is, but she's American. Mm-hmm. So she was raised in America. So there's a different, I think it would be more difficult with some of the other cultures, like the Indian culture, having coming over from India. Yeah. You'd really have to know the ins and outs of that, or even the Asian culture because they have such a different viewpoint.
I think it's different. Like you said, it's different if you're writing a character who comes from a different culture. Like, writing an Italian fresh off the boat is different from writing an Italian who's been here for years. Whose only type to being Italian is either great-great-grandfather twice removed. So it's different in that sense. So in that case, I would recommend, make a friend. Make a friend. Right. Make a friend. Ask a lot of questions. I've had people who say, we really want, we don't see a lot of Latino models. And I have a handful of them that I absolutely adore. There are two authors. I cannot for the life of me remember their names off the top of my head, but they're Afro-Latina. And one of my models, Amanda, is Afro-Latina. So it's different from being, lack of a better term, straight Latina.
Right.
You have your Latina, and they have your Afro-Latina, and it's different. So a lot of times people just want to be able to see themselves in the character. They want to be able to pick up a book cover and see themselves. So, putting diversity on book covers and putting diversity in books, it doesn't hurt anybody. If anything, it opens your market, it opens your readership up to so many different people.
Well, no, I would definitely agree with that. And I think that at least whenever we have published interracial romance or anything that was, any of our books that weren't specifically, that weren't white, I should say, anything that were of other colors, we always made sure that we included that in the cover. All of our interracial romances, I thought, well, gosh, that's a big selling point. Why wouldn't you want people to know that this is an interracial romance? This one, actually, this was what the author wanted. But it's also, it says on the front, the life and love of a Tuskegee Airman. Mm-hmm. So Red Tail Heart. And it's actually a beautiful book. And I think that actually suits it very much, because that's a picture of what they flew. Mm-hmm. So, it suits it very well. But other than that, it's never, like I said, we've always tried to, at least Wild Child Publishing and Freya's Bauer, we've always tried to be sure that we give an accurate representation on the cover, because like you said, if it's not accurate, you're going to disappoint the reader. Mm-hmm. Because it's that cover that really first catches someone's eye. Yes. And then you go from there. And if the cover tells you that the book is going to be something other than it is, then you're already disappointed after the first couple of pages. You can't help but anything else, right? You can't help but be disappointed.
And like I said, my job as a cover artist is to take the information you give me and translate that into an image. Translating it into an image is not as easy as some people would think, because I have to do research. I have to find models that fit your character. I've had people who, they'll say, describe your character, and they'll tell me, okay, my character is loyal. My character loves long walks on the beach. My character loves sushi. And I'm like, that's great. But and you describe your character, and people don't understand that a description is a physical thing. What does your character look like? I'm an artist, whether you like sushi or not doesn't help me do my job at all. And
a lot of people like sushi. Even little girls like sushi.
I actually, and again, I've done this a couple of times because I'll say, what is your describe your character, and they'll give me those answers, and I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm going to teach you a lesson, and I will do and based on what their previous books were. If their previous books were a white couple, I'm going to give them an interracial couple on their first draft because you did not tell me what they look like. That is your lesson. I've had people come back saying, "Oh, he's not Black." Did you tell me that? If not, then you failed. So they kind of get the point that way, so they understand that they have to give me information for me to do my job, as well as me give them information on what I need from them. So things like that. So I've had oh, he's loyal. I put a golden retriever on the cover. Oh, there's no dog in there. You said he's loyal. He likes long walks on the beach. Golden retriever.
Oh, she's going to leave us to our ghosts. Yes. Catherine, well, thank you for coming, Catherine. I'm glad you could come in. Well, I know at least once or twice we've sent in some cover art from you that the author filled out and gave you like no information. And then you returned a cover and I'm like, what is this? This is not Taria's usual cover art. But I send it off to the author. They're like, but that's not what I meant at all. And it's like, you didn't tell her anything, did you?
I tell them my psychic abilities are lacking. They're pretty darn rusty. So if you don't tell me what you want, I can't give you what you need. So information, you can never give too much information. You can give me half your book, I'll ignore half it and just pick out what I need to do my job and do it well.
Right. Well, so I have a question. That we were talking about this before we recorded, but you were saying that your sister dragged you to hotels that she knows or places she knows are haunted.
Yes, she tried. She actually went to Colorado, and the hotel they did the Shining is based on.
Oh.
I don't remember the name of the hotel, but she went there, and while she was there, she FaceTimed me through the whole thing. She video chatted me because I couldn't be there with her. There's a prison in Pennsylvania that's not too far, about maybe an hour from our house, and she's been begging me to go there on Halloween night for like the past 5 years. Yeah.
You saw the look on my face. No. I can think of a few people who would do that, but it wouldn't be me.
I'll do it because it's something that she enjoys, and I love my sister, so I'll indulge her and I'll do it, But on my own, you'll never catch me playing with a Ouija board or anything like that. But you want to walk through a house that's supposedly haunted? Okay, we'll try it. We'll see. As long as it stays here and doesn't come home with me, we're all good.
Lies you tell, I would never.
Mind you, I'll probably try to drag my husband and my brother along with us, but for the most part, we'll go. I'll indulge her. She's big on paranormal stuff.
Oh, that's cool. But I've told this story a few times, not to you and not on Blab, but a long time ago, before I met my husband, and I was living in this apartment up a 2-story apartment in the back, and it was only like a quadruplex, so it wasn't like there were a lot of apartments in there. And so we were in the back, and my bedroom was actually against the kitchen wall of the one next to us, and then next to me there was just a window overlooking someone else's yard, and then on the other side was my bathroom, kind of thing. And I had been dating this guy, and I didn't like him, and I decided, I was trying to figure out how I could get whether I should just cut him loose or not. I was feeling guilty, but we'd only gone out 3 times, and it was like, so I wasn't really, and he was already starting to annoy me. Right. So I'm laying in bed, and it must be, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking to myself, should I just not meet him tomorrow and just let him know I'm not going to come? Or should I go see him? And, or should I meet him? And I kid you not, behind me, there was like a loud knock on the wall. It was just like, and then in my closet, there was a knock. And then over where my window was, there was a knock. And then it just got faster and faster to where it was just like, and I said, okay, sign not to go. And it just stopped. I thought, all right.
Done deal.
That was I'm done. I'm not gonna. Yeah. Lizzie says time to move. Well, I did eventually move.
Yeah.
So it's just I was just to say. So I've had a few paranormal experiences like that.
Other than the people who we thought were walking by, we couldn't see them, like looking directly at them. Other than that, I've never had anything. My sister swears her house is haunted, but that's a different story. I know Kenya had a question. Where do I see romance covers going in 2016, and will it all still be muscled and half naked guys? I think for 2016, and this is a direct response to how Amazon is handling covers. Amazon is cracking down on a lot of things. They are taking a serious dip in Prudeville. They
so sad.
Yes, I mean they are putting naked chests and half naked people and couples and clunches. They're putting those in a different category, and they're kind of hiding those covers so that way they can still say family friendly. But other than that, I see covers staying more with their couples being dressed. The couples can still be in a sensual position or in a sensual embrace, but the half nakedness is kind of going. Now, if you are doing erotica and it's pretty much you're going self pub and you're going to sell an all romance, you don't care about Amazon, balls to the wall, do whatever you want. But for the most part, if we're going on Amazon and that's your main selling point, you're going to stick with more sensual as opposed to sexy, if that makes any sense. So you can do the shirt open, but you're probably not going to do the shirt all the way off, even though people still do that, but it depends on how it's pulled off. Because you can do a shirt off and still have it kind of covered and sexy and sensual, as opposed to shirt off and just man flexing or anything like that. So I think the nakedness is going to kind of go away a little bit, and it's going to be more towards that sensual embrace if it's a couple, or the guy in the really tight fitting t-shirt if it's suspense or something like that.
She also had another question about there's a lot of double imaging and blending now. What do you think about that? And my husband's calling me, of course.
It's okay.
So this is that time of day when he's coming home.
Anyway, what do you mean by the double imaging?
I'm not sure what she means.
All right, hold on. She's explaining.
Okay. Photo manipulation.
Well, photo manipulation is what I do. There's so many different styles. My style of photo manipulation is I don't like floating heads. That is my huge pet peeve as an artist. It is a personal preference.
Well, you might see some this weekend.
I can't. The floating head things it bothers me as an artist. But my style of photo manipulation is pretty much, I like my artwork to look like it could be a photograph. It's an actual scene. It's a snapshot of what's happening in that book. There's other types of photo manipulation where you'll have a couple up top and then it'll fade into a cityscape or something like that. I don't do a lot of those because me doing it, it never looks quite right. When somebody else does it, I'm like, oh, that's a cover. When I do it, it just like, oh, what are you doing? Stop. So yeah, for me, I can't do that. So I'll say 99.999% of my artwork, it's an actual scene. It's a snapshot of what's happening in that book. So photo manipulation, yes. One thing I do see going away, and this is because authors don't like it, the image. for a long time, authors would buy an image or a stock image and just throw text on top of it. And then there would be these huge like author gang wars because so-and-so stole my cover. No, you purchased an image off of a stock site and didn't do anything to it, just threw text on it. So I do see that going away a little bit because authors are kind of seeing the value in having a unique cover. So I do think that's going away, but I think photo manipulation, if you can find a great artist who can do it and pull it off and not have everything look like it's cut and pasted, then that's definitely the way I see things going.
Well, I also think a lot of, or not necessarily a lot of it, but some of the pieces that of cover art that I've seen you do look like paintings. They don't just look like photography or manipulated photography. You've, for instance, like the a series by Steve Shilstone, his Becca of Thorns, and a lot of those were. I know you didn't necessarily. You've done like the last 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think I started at book 4.
Yeah, and those were, you know, some of them were just like, wow, this looks like she actually painted it. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't look like she took 2 photos and manipulated it. So, and I think that when you hire a good cover artist, that's the kind of thing that you get, because you're a cover artist for a reason. There's been times when I've tried to put stuff together and I'm like, yeah, I just can't do this. I've just got to call Taria, or I've got to call, you know, I mean, I've got to call a real cover artist because I have no idea what I'm doing, and it shows. And that's not what I want for my house, you know, or even for my own. If I were to self-publish, I wouldn't. Of course, I have no reason to. I just do it for my house. But you know, I just don't have. That's not what I would want. You want to present professional. You want your book to look professional, so that, you know, people will want to buy your book. And I think it's really telling. You can tell the difference between someone who has paid a cover artist who knows what they're doing, and someone who has either done it for themselves or paid someone who doesn't really know what they're doing.
It goes into my motto of just because you can doesn't mean you should. There are a lot of people who they have Photoshop or they have some form of editing program, photo editing program, and they think, you know what, why am I going to pay a cover artist to do $150 or whatever they're charging to do this when I can do it myself? Unless you understand artwork, I say, just, you know what, pay somebody, you'll thank yourself in the long run. Because again, a crappy cover sticks out like a sore thumb. A crappy cover sticks out like a sore thumb. You can spot it a mile away. I refuse to buy books because the cover is crappy, because in my mind as a reader, if the cover is crappy, that means whatever inside is going to be crappy, because you obviously didn't have enough pride or didn't think it was important enough to invest in a good cover. And you can find good covers in all different price ranges. So whenever I see someone say, you know what, I can't afford a good cover because it's too expensive, it makes my eye twitch, because again, it's about what's important to you. Are you not going to pay an editor to edit your work? You know, yes. Are you not? You know, it's the outside is just as important as the inside, and I think people are realizing that now. When, you know, I've done massive recovers last year, because, you know what, my book isn't selling. Can you recover? You know, this is the original cover I had, and I'm looking at that thinking, oh, that's why it wasn't selling very well. You know, it looks like it was done by an amateur, or somebody who just, you know, woke up one morning and say, hey, I have Photoshop, I'm going to design covers. And that's not how it works. It took me. Now, granted, I got into cover art pretty fast. The same summer you hired me was the same summer I started. But what I would do is I would practice. From the time I got my kids off to school till 3 o'clock in the morning, I was practicing my artwork. Even now, my art pieces now are me practicing. I'm always practicing. I'm always learning. I'm always working on my technique. I'm always working on things to make different. I actually teach little mini classes to some of my artist friends, because they're like, how do you draw hair? and I'll sit there and I'll do a video chat with them, and I'll show them how I draw the hair. So again, it's a constant practice. It's not I woke up one morning saying, oh, I'm just going to do this, which I kind of did, but again, I practiced.
Well, but it took a lot of time. She was saying, some indies don't pay to get editors. Kenya was saying that, and you were talking about that too. And I'll give you a good example. I had someone call me about this YA novel that they had. By the way, the novel was 60 pages long. And I said, that's not really a novel, and that wouldn't be long enough for most young adult readers. And she said, I said, so you're probably going to have a hard time selling that to any publishers, because it's not going to be worth their time to do the editing and to pay a cover artist and all of that. So you might want to self-publish. And I said, and if you do, you're going to want, be sure that you get a good editor and you get a good cover artist and so on and so forth. And she said to me, well, I'm really good with English. I don't need to have an editor. I'm like, okay, I will not be signing you for that very reason. But the other thing was, so I told her, I said, I know publishers who would never publish anything, myself included, without having someone else read it and edit it for them, because they want to make sure that there's a second pair of eyes on there, and that it will be professionally produced, and it doesn't, across the board, it doesn't matter, so I would never put anything out there.
It reflects on you. I have a friend who will give a bad review if there are editing issues in the book, spelling issues in the book. If the book isn't enjoyed, because again, I do audiobooks, doesn't apply to me, but it brings you out of the story when someone uses a word wrong or someone spells a word really wrong. So it brings the book, and again, it's all a reflection on you. What do you want your brand to say? I have a client who does nothing but custom images with me. She has short stories, long stories, doesn't matter. It's a custom image. Why? Her brand is important to her. She doesn't want anybody to have the images that she has for her books. She has a certain look she wants. She has certain models she wants. So it's all about what your brand is. Yay, stalk me. So it's all about your branding and how serious you are about protecting your brand. You have to protect your brand. I take pride in my work. I love what I do. And when I give a draft and someone wants me to make a change that is totally outside of my style, it kind of makes me feel some kind of way, because you hired me because you liked my style, and now you want me to get rid of it altogether. Now, if you want me to lighten something up and make it not look so painted, I can do that. But if you want me to do floating heads,
No. Well, I mean, Joe was talking about that last week, how he said that he had a favorite line in The Last Battleship, and I made him take it out because it was total author voice. And she's like, man, she's tough, she's mean, it's like, you know what though? But it didn't work for the book. As poetic and beautiful as it might have been, suddenly the author is in there talking, and we've lost the characters. And that's it is part of taking pride in what you produce. You want it to reflect well on the author, but it's also reflecting well on you and your brand. And Wild Child Publishing and Phrase Bauer is my brand. Your brand is you.
Mm-hmm. Like I love when, an author will get a cover from me, and then, months later, weeks later, they'll post it. And the first time it happened, I smiled like a twit for like 12 hours straight, because someone picked out my cover. The author, when she posted it, she didn't say that I was the cover artist, but somewhere in the thread, as everybody was congratulating her on her new book, that's a Taria Reid cover. And I was like, yes! I made it. I have a fan other than my husband and my sister and my mom.
And me.
network and pick out my work automatically, oh, it's the best feeling. We do when we do the art challenges with my artist group. I network with about 25 really insanely talented artists, and every so often we do an art challenge, and I'll post the art theme and then the rest of the challenges on my page and put it in a folder for everybody to see. And I've had people come up and say, I can pick yours out, even though everybody else is awesome, I can pick yours out immediately. Even though I'm posting it, but still, they can tell the difference between everybody's style. And that's one of the things that I love about this artist group, is because I can network with them, I can share with them, and it's never a competition because we all have our individual style. So when people are looking for cover artists, when they're outside of publishers, they're doing it in indie, I will say, find an artist whose style speaks to you.
Yeah.
I don't do floating heads, so don't come to me for floating heads. I have another artist who uses a lot of texture and she uses it beautifully. I don't do that. I mean, I can do that and it looks kind of off to me because it's not my normal. And it's something that I probably have to keep practicing on. But if somebody wanted something that was highly textured, I would say, you know what? Maybe my style isn't for you. Try going to her. She does a wonderful job. Someone wants a historical painted. John Paul Ferreira. He was actually, when I first started doing cover design, I emulated a lot of his work because he actually paints his stuff. And wow. I can't paint myself out of a box. I can paint a wall and that's it. And I love the look of his stuff. So he was a big influence on the evolution of how my stuff became to look so painted. Whereas his has that dreamy painted look, mine is kind of sharp and painted. So right. It's the same theory, but it's totally different. So again, we're not each other's competition. So he's in the group with us, and it's a fabulous way to kind of bounce ideas off of other creatives to kind of still stay on top of my game and hone my skills to make my skill set better for my clients. So that way I'm constantly learning and constantly giving a great product for my clients and publishing clients.
Well, I agree. I mean, I know Kenya had asked about when are they going to if they were going to get away from bare-chested men. And she may have said that because that's what is on Mr. Hotness. That's the, that's the cover. And, no, she's, well, you know what? I'll tell you, when I was looking, I know it's on a bunch of them, but when I was looking for a couple to put on Mr. Hotness, I couldn't find what I was looking for. And so I thought, well, you know what? It's titled Mr. Hotness. Why don't we just go with a hot guy? Because it was really, like I said, it was really hard. And also it was through Decadent Publishing. So it wasn't through Wild Child or Freya's Bower. And so, it was very hard to find a couple and to find that she's Basque and her hair is like all the way down her back. And, so it makes it difficult to find.
One of the things I do as an artist is when I'm looking for stock pictures, I look for the bones of the picture. Because there are things that I can change. I can change hair color. I can change hair length. I can change eye color. I can even change body shape to a certain extent. So I look for the bones. I look for an image I can work with. And again, that is the mark of a good artist, because not every artist will do that. Some artists will just say, okay, that's the image. I can't do anything with it. Her hair color is going to be what it is. This is going to be what it is. So one of the reasons, one of the perks of me being able to paint and draw over an image is because I can change that. Your character needs long hair. I can give her long hair, not a problem. Needs curly hair, not a problem. Short buzz cut, maybe a problem, but we'll see. but it's pretty much, you have to trust your artist. You have to look at their portfolio. You have to make sure that you can trust them without having to micromanage them. Micromanaging is the one thing that drives me insane. Give me the job, let me do my job. So, and then once I give you the draft, then, we'll go from there. But yeah, it's pretty much, you have to, hi, Joe. So it's pretty much you have to trust your artist. If you don't trust your artist, you need to find a new artist.
Well, I would agree with that. And obviously, I trust you because we just kind of send you stuff and then we let you run with it.
Yes!
And everybody...
And I love that. It's pretty much, here, this is what I need. And then the most I get from you guys is, oh, can you, change your hair color a little bit, or can you, remove the flower from the background? Something small, but other than that, I love that. Let me do my job. Trust that I will sell your books.
And as I said, well, obviously we keep using you because we love you. So, and you do a fabulous job. Now it must be 7:30 there. Have you had an opportunity to eat? Do you eat?
I did. I ate right before we came on, but I do have to go soon because festivities start at 8 o'clock. And I am the official photographer, so I have to go down and take pictures of wicked wild women.
So Joe said, get rid of these fish. This is a horror novel, not Finding Nemo.
It was under the sea, Joe. There are fish in the ocean.
It's a fabulous cover, too. And it does look painted. It really does.
And again, I can honestly say that has always been my style, to have that painted look. Sometimes I'll pull it back a little bit so it's not so heavy painted, but for the most part, that's always been what I've been drawn to artistically. That's always what I've done. When I was teaching myself how to do this, that's how everything came out. Like if you look at some of my earlier artworks, just as I'm teaching myself, you'll cringe. Well, you may not cringe, I'll cringe, but it all has that painted look. It's just something I've always done.
Not compared to some of the artwork I've tried. So I would say yours is far beyond what I do. I can't even do stick figures. They end up being squiggly lines. And
oh, my stick figures are epic.
Otherwise, your models wouldn't be able to understand what you want them to do, right?
Exactly. Again, anytime I draw one, they all get together, huddle up, and laugh at me.
Yeah.
Because they know what I'm capable of, finished artwork wise. So in the beginning, when I'm drawing my stick figures to show them how I need them to be, they're like, "Oh, really? You drew that? Oh, that's horrible. People pay you."
But it's a stick figure. It's not the same as the photo manipulation that you do so beautifully. Yes. So anyway, I really want to thank you. I know that you need to get going. I want to thank everybody for watching today. And I'm so glad that we haven't had any issues. Maybe the ghosts smiled upon us because we were talking about them. And so they kept the internet going for us. So I want people to know how they can find you.
You can find me almost everywhere. I am most active on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. You can just search my name, Taria Reed. Friend me on my personal account. Be prepared for shenanigans. You can find me on my design page, Taria Reed Digital Artist. You can find my stock page, The Reed Files. Websites, thereedfiles.com, TheReedFiles.com. My design site, tariareed.net, TARIAREED.net. I'm on Instagram under just Taria, TARIA. Find me, friend me, chat with me. I love talking about books, so definitely reach out, find me.
And you can find me at marcybond.com, exactly how it's spelled, marcybond.com. You can find me at wildchildpublishing.com. That's one of my publishing houses. You can also find me at freyasbauer.com. That's FREYAS, B as in boy, OUWER.com. And you can find me on Facebook under Marcy Bond, on Twitter under Marcy Bond, on Pinterest under Marcy Bond. I don't do much there. Google Plus, Marcy Bond. LinkedIn, Marcy Bond. I'm everywhere. And I tagged Taria everywhere on Google Plus, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I've tagged her everywhere. We do this. I do this every week, every Thursday at 4 p.m. And please come and join me. I'm happy to have you stalk me, Kenya. And please let me know if you like Mr. Hotness or not. I would love to get your feedback. I'm hoping you do. Only if it's good, though, of course, right? so
I will say I am on Periscope also. Since I'm at the Wild Wicked weekend, I will be doing Periscope, so you guys can kind of get a behind the scenes on what's going on here.
Yeah, and I've watched you on Periscope as well.
Oh.
So, I was watching you do one of your photo shoots. It was very interesting, and then I had to go. but it was still very. Periscope is owned by Twitter, and you can find Taria under Taria Reid on Periscope, so you can subscribe to her there.
If you go to my webpage, tariareid.net, I believe I have a link to my Periscope on there as well.
Okay, so she's going to go to your webpage. It looks like she's truly going to stalk you. She's going to stalk both of us. I'm glad we could help you through your breakup, Kenya. This has been great fun for me, and we'll have to do this again, Taria.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a great time.
So thanks for coming.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.